Good job, Kylie. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Wow, look at her go.
Girl, let me help you out, come on. All right, so when it comes to throwing, if you don't do the first step correctly, which is centering, you're straight up going to be dead in the water. If you have a bit of experience under your belt and something's a little bit off center, you can probably get away with it. But at the beginning days, girl, you better pause, rewind, and recenter because you're not gonna get anywhere. Before you even get to the centering stage, to make your life even easier, make sure your clay isn't like in a cone shape. What I tend to do after I cut however much clay I want is to tap it like this, which you see me doing in like almost every single video because it is such a crucial and essential step to throwing. The next step is to actually place your clay on the wheel, and the closer you get to the center, the better. So what I tend to do when I'm not super confident that it's gonna land in the center is I anchor my arm on my leg and I know exactly where I wanna throw it, and then I just go up and then I chuck it down and it's gonna land kind of in the center. So let's do it. So this is relatively close to the center, but I can tell that it's not perfectly centered. So I'm going to actually push the clay just a little bit. There you go. So it's a lot closer to the center now. And then I tap it down to make sure it's really stuck on there before I actually start centering. So when it comes down to techniques for actually centering, it honestly depends on the person, and I've seen people do it many different ways, and I have done it many different ways through my ceramics journey. But at the end of the day, you need to think of centering as two different flat surfaces, one on the side of your piece and one on the top of your piece, because you want it to turn into a perfect puck. The flattest surfaces that you have within your hands, your tools, are the sides of your hands and this little part. So as every ceramics instructor will tell you, you need to anchor your elbows on your legs to give you stability. And the best way to start is to use your non-dominant hand to create the side wall of your piece and your dominant hand to create the top of your piece. And you want to apply pressure until the point where you create a very even puck. Sometimes you have to ease off on the top hand and then reapply some pressure to make sure that the clay has some ability to move, because the more that you push your clay with your non-dominant hand on the side, the clay is going to want to rise up. So you kind of counter that by having a hand on the top. You're using your legs and your core and your torso to kind of hold it in place to the best of your ability. Let's get into it. So this took me a couple seconds, but honestly, when I started, it would take me at least 10 minutes to center every time because it is so difficult. One way to check if your clay is fully centered is by taking one finger and putting it gently against your piece, spinning your wheel, and if your finger is moving, that means your clay is not centered. If you are a beginner in pottery, I cannot emphasize this enough. If there's any wobble within your clay, you should take an extra second, extra minute, extra 2, 5, 10 minutes, whatever it is, to get your clay centered. If you start pulling up the walls and you don't have a ton of experience under your belt, it is going to be really, really hard. And your piece is probably going to flop over at some point, or you're gonna rip it apart, or something whack is gonna happen. So spend extra time getting the centering down, and in no time you'll be centering your clay within like 10, 15 seconds, I promise.